Difficult shot coming up.
Play solid. Yep. Whoa. Lead. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Lead. Whoa. Yep. Stay.
Angle. Get one, get the other. And that rolls there for two.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Athlete Podcast sponsored by Sports for Champions. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Team GB curler Bruce Mouat. How are you today, Bruce?
Hey, how are you? Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. You're actually joining us from Canada, I believe.
Yeah, in a place called Cornwall, which is not as nice as the British version, but yeah, it's it's pretty warm here, which is nice.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, it's pretty miserable here. How are you getting on? You're out there competing?
Yeah, so we've got two events on this trip, and both of them were in Ontario in Canada, and first one went really well in Oakville where we won, and this one's going to be a bit tougher, but yeah, it should be a really good event.
Excellent, fantastic. So I'd like to take you all the way back, if we could. Can you tell us about how you first got into curling?
Sure. So I was probably about 7, maybe 6 years old. My dad had watched the Olympics in 2002, where Rona Martin and her team won the Olympic gold medal. And then about 2 months later, a lady called Jackie Lockhart won the World Championships. So there was a lot of kind of buzz around curling at that point in Scotland. And my dad saw a newspaper article asking for junior members to join a club in Edinburgh. So he took me along with my brother when we both started there, and yeah, now my whole family is kind of curled on and off. My brother still works in curling, and I now compete across the world. So yeah, it's definitely been a family kind of sport that we've loved.
That's fantastic. Just for the viewers at home who might not be so familiar with curling, can you just break down a little bit about how the sport works?
Sure. So it's a team sport. We play in men's and women's formats, or 4 players. We throw 2 stones each, a total of 8 per team, and you are competing against another 4 players that throw alternate to you. And then it's whoever scores the most points after 8 ends or 10 ends at championships is ultimately the winner. It also gets called things like chess on ice or the roaring game. So chess on ice basically relates to the tactics and trying to stay two shots ahead of your opponent, basically, or 2 moves in front of your opponent. I mean, so yeah, it's pretty tactical, pretty physical. I love it because it combines both of them. So yeah, it's a great sport for most people to try, and you can compete up until maybe not like Olympic standards, but you can play and recreationally play all the way up till about 70.
That's amazing. And then in terms of what makes somebody good at the sport, so obviously you're saying there's a physical and a tactical side to it. Obviously as a team you can kind of work on the tactical side, but what kind of physical attributes are you kind of looking for?
So we obviously slide in a lunge position, so we have to have pretty strong legs to know what the feeling is of the ice. So like you're trying to slide at a certain pace to get the draw weight of the ice. So you need to know, firstly, be able to hold yourself in that lunge position for up to like 10 seconds. So a bit physically demanding there. We also do a lot of sweeping, which is upper body. So you have to have pretty strong shoulders and be able to move the brush as fast as you can, because basically you're trying to melt the ice as much as possible to help the stone glide as far. So yeah, there's a few kind of physical attributes there, but in the gym, like we'll do a lot of Olympic lifting because it's full body movements, and we do a lot of like push and pull exercises for upper body, just purely for the sweeping part. There's also a new discipline called mixed doubles, which is a man and a woman playing, and that's basically a faster paced game. So you have to have a bit of cardio involved now. So yeah, it's definitely developing like most sports, but yeah, it's quite exciting where we're going with it.
That's brilliant. And in terms of, obviously it takes place on ice. You could have somebody presumably who's amazing in the gym, they're great with the tactical side of things, but how much does actually being comfortable on the ice come into it?
Well, yeah, I guess we don't have to wear skates on ice, which is nice because I'm the person on the skating rink that would go around holding the edge or the barrier. So So it's quite nice where we get to wear normal shoes for the most part, but then we have a thing called a Teflon slider, which helps you kind of glide along the ice. And Teflon is an extremely slippy material. So you have to be comfortable sliding on one foot basically, and then it's like most things, you'll just get used to it. It's like almost like riding a bike. You'll be able to slide along the ice, and as soon as you start to practice, and you get used to it.
There you go. Yeah, I have quite a lot of Scottish family, and I know it is huge up in Scotland. I know obviously you've had the success which will that you've had that we'll come on to. But do you know why it has become so popular? Is there just a few breakout stars who carried the sport up there?
Well, we actually invented the sport.
There you go.
So I think it was in the 16th century, so quite a while ago. So it's kind of like golf, like Scotland invented the sport. So um, it was always kind of something that you would do when like it got cold outside, and you would find a local pond and you would go and throw some stones on it. And then it's just kind of developed into this thing that's now basically an indoor sport, where we have dedicated facilities. I know in England they're struggling with facilities, but they've got one in Preston, I believe, and then there's another one apparently in Cambridge. It's maybe not dedicated to curling, but yeah, they've got facilities there for people to go and try it. And obviously the Olympic buzz kind of helps with that, and people come around and try it like every 4 years. So trying to retain all the people after that Olympic buzz is probably our challenge. But yeah, Scotland seem to absolutely love it, and obviously the success that we've had over the years has kind of helped create that buzz as well.
Speaking of the Olympic success, Beijing 2022, you had an amazing performance. Can you tell us a bit about that whole experience?
Sure, yeah. Definitely one of the highlights of my career. I competed basically for 18 days straight. I was in the mixed doubles, and then I played in the men's format. In the mixed doubles, we came agonizingly close to a medal. We came fourth, which was pretty gutting at the time. And then the next day, I was back on the ice with my men's team, and we had a really good run. We topped the table in the round robin, and then unfortunately just lost the final to the Swedish boys, who are like 7 times world champion or something like that. So, it was a bit gutting to get the silver medal, but it's still a pretty cool medal to get to show off, and it's pretty heavy. So a lot of the people that get to hold it are amazed at how heavy it just is.
How did that final match go? Was it a close run thing?
Yeah, it was very close. I think well, I can't even remember the score. I think it was about 5-4 or something along those lines. So pretty close game. We had a shot to make the Swedish boys draw the button, but we just missed it. So yeah, it was pretty close, and definitely something to kind of reflect on. And we've made improvements, and yeah, we're definitely going to try and do one better when we get to Italy for the next Winter Olympics, hopefully.
Fantastic. We'll all be behind you in the office for sure. What in between, you're saying about struggling perhaps to keep momentum in between the Olympic years, what does the kind of calendar look like for the professional curlers?
So our season starts around about September. So we've been traveling for 3 weeks now. So obviously we started at the start of September, and now we're going home next week, which will be nice. But we normally compete throughout the winter months all the way up till about the start of May now. So it is quite a long calendar for us. We've competed all over the world now, so it's quite exciting to get to travel. But then when we get those 2 months off, it's quite nice to chill out.
What would you say has been your greatest challenge in your career so far?
I think it's probably getting over the Olympic hangover, actually. So trying to bounce back the next year. We had a really slow start to the year last year, just after the Olympics, and it was hard to kind of motivate yourself to get back on the ice and compete to the level that we know we can. But yeah, it was one of those struggles that you're pretty fortunate to have an Olympic medal, but then you're also gutted that you didn't get the gold one. So it was, yeah, it's a weird one to talk about, but definitely that Olympic hangover. But we did pretty well last season to bounce back. So
Brilliant. In terms of legacy, what kind of legacy would you like to leave behind in your sport?
Um, well, I want to obviously promote curling. I think it's quite a big thing for um, Scottish people, but I also want it to spread across the entirety of the UK. I would love to see it kind of grow down south in England and hopefully get a dedicated ice rink in Ireland and places like this. So yeah, that's probably something to kind of hopefully by the end of my career it'll be something like that. But then I also want to encourage the LGBT community to join into sport generally. It doesn't have to be curling, but I want them to feel safe and you know, sport can be a great thing for your physical and mental health. So that's definitely something that I'm hoping to achieve by the end of my career.
It's something that is progressing slowly in sport. You're starting to see sort of the shoots that will hopefully eventually bloom. But yeah, it does seem like it does have some way to go. Is there anything in your opinion that you think could propel it forward?
You know, there's is almost between each sport it's different. I think like in football you're obviously seeing like one or two people come out, but there's definitely that kind of it's almost scarier for them to come out just because there's a lack of people. So I think once they're you start to see a few more people come out, then hopefully it'll be encouraging for other people to take up the sport or to feel comfortable in coming out. But in curling, I never had any discrimination against it. I was always kind of encouraged to continue in my sport, and you know, it was really nice atmosphere for me. And I'm sure other sports were the same, but I definitely think that it just needs to be almost talked about. Like there's no it's a bit scary for obviously if you're the first person to do it, but once other people start to do it, then yeah, hopefully it'll be encouraging for others to take up sport as well.
Yeah, hopefully we're moving in the right direction with that, and we'll see over the next few years where that takes us. Finally, do you have any advice for somebody perhaps thinking of taking up curling, or perhaps even just trying to find out more about it?
Well, yeah, there's websites that you can go to. So in Scotland, there's a Try Curling website where you can find out your closest rink. So as I was saying, in England, it would be like Preston or maybe the one in Cambridge. But in Scotland, there's about 20 ice rinks that you can go to. I think there's now one in Wales as well, in case people can have a look and see if there's one there. But yeah, if you want to take up curling, as I've said before, it's a really good physical and mental sport. It combines strategy as well as just basically sweeping as hard as you can, so being as strong as you can. So there's lots of different elements to the sport. It's not just like running as fast as you can for 10 seconds or you know, other things that other sports do. We last about 2.5 hours, so it's quite physically demanding as well. So yeah, a great sport that I would encourage people to take up if they can.
I'd imagine a good camaraderie as well with it being a team sport.
Definitely, yeah, it's great to always be surrounded by like-minded people, but yeah, in curling it's a great social sport. Like we were friends with most of the other teams that travel and compete, and even in local ice rinks, like it's a really good sense of community, and there's always that kind of social element that you can go up the stairs and sit with your opponents after the game.
That's brilliant. Well, I think that's a fantastic note to end it on. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was nice chatting.
More than welcome, and we'll see you all next time for another episode of the Athlete Podcast, sponsored by Sports for Champions. See ya.